Our focus at Decisions is sort of taking what Microsoft has already built, what you already have access to from your subscriptions to Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365, and extend those and get them to integrate a bit better for the purposes of organizing meetings. And those can take the form of public-facing meetings, so your council meetings, committee meetings, but also inward-facing meetings. So if you have staff meetings, or maintenance team has a meeting and they want to go through information and have an agenda and minutes when that meeting is done, they also have access to this too and some use from it. But long story short, let me get to the practical demo so you can see what it looks like and how you put a pack together. We integrate in Teams in two places. So at the team level, we have a tab that you add in, like David showed you for some of the ones that they've developed for other councils. We have a meetings tab, and this one shows you meetings coming up with this team specifically. So most of the time, in David's demo example, you're probably having your team separated by the council that is working. So here you would see all of the meetings coming up with this council specifically. If you wanted to get an overview of all of the meetings on the calendar, you can use the decisions add-in on the left, and this will show you really any meeting that you have on your calendar. I'm actually in a meeting. Let me back up. So you can see, regardless of the council or the team, those meetings, and can find the agendas for those. If there are any minutes published, you can find those there for both upcoming and for past meetings. So if you want to go back and find the agenda from a previous meeting or the minutes, you can do that really quickly also. What I'm going to go do now is actually go into an agenda for a full council meeting that I started building so that you can see what that looks like. Agendas can either be built from scratch. If it's a bit more ad hoc, you just add each item as you go. Oftentimes, of course, these have a similar format from meeting to meeting, so you can template those and work from that template to save yourself a bit of time, and then just add the additional agenda items as you need. So I've worked from an agenda template on this one, so it's a fairly standard, format. We have a title for each item, description below that. But let's say we have item number 2, and then we have an additional item that we need to add for this meeting occurrence. I just build the agenda item like this. So maybe we have a roadway through town. Quite simple. You add the agenda item description. Probably be a bit longer than that. You then go in, and any files that are associated with this, you can either upload, or if you have them already in SharePoint or somewhere else in the web, you can link to those and associate it with that agenda item. In this case, I'll just upload something. Just add a PDF here. You can assign it to somebody if it's a specific presenter that will be taking care of that subject. You can assign it to them. Otherwise, you can leave it open or assign it to the entire committee. I'll assign David to this one, different David. I will give it an amount of time, which you don't have to do, but if you do, it will activate a time tracker that'll show up during the meeting. And I'll show you that in a second when I show you what the in-meeting experience looks like. Save that, and then that's also on the agenda here and built in. Once I have this ready, the agenda ready to share to the committee, I publish this, and I can notify my attendees a couple of ways. So they can either receive an email, they can also have it posted in the Teams channel, so they're prompted to review that within Teams. And there's also the ability to update the invitation directly on their calendar, which I've already did, so that's why it's grayed out. But this will just update the invite on their calendar, and they'll have a link to open up that agenda right on that invite. I can also include a summary of what the agenda looks like. If it's a more collaborative meeting, I can allow people to suggest items to add to that agenda. I can also turn that off if it's going to cause more harm than good. Notify, and that will post in this case, I posted it in Teams, so it will go into the team feed here, and then they'll able to see the sort of summary of what the agenda looks like. They'll be able to pop out that agenda in their browser, and then here's that suggest button if we want to allow them to suggest items to add. So they're able to view, of course, the agenda here. Once I send that out, they can open up the files. They can also annotate documents and create private annotated copies. This syncs with their OneDrive, meaning that it's not shared with other members of the meeting. It's just private to them. So if I wanted to go in and edit this document, highlight it, mark it up, whatever I'd like to do, I can do that, and that'll just be for me. And I can launch that in the meeting itself. If I, also though, in addition to the agenda view here, you can also create what we call a meeting book, which is a pack for the meeting, which basically takes all of the documentation, open up over here, the agenda and all of the documentation for the meeting, and it creates a sort of a pack that you have with the table of contents, or an agenda page, the table of contents, which is hyperlinked, each of the agenda items, and then the files are merged directly into that. So this is I think this one was a PDF. I think I also have a merged PowerPoint in here. This one's quite large. Yeah, then there's a PowerPoint presentation also merged in here. So you have one document that if you need to print, you can do that. If you want to send it out by email, you can do that. And people can also annotate this as well. And this has basically all of the information for the meeting. So if you also want to publish this to the website, you have an easy document to publish there as well. Great, and then so we're sort of at this point set up in the meeting. We have our agenda ready to go. So when we get into the meeting, I'll show you sort of how the person who's clerking the meeting will be able to administrate things. And I'll also show you sort of the experience from the end user, so from the counselor side.
Right, can I just add quickly something
David, go ahead.
there? Because we're using Decisions quite a lot to run our meetings here at Cloudy, with the marketing team, engineering team. We're using it extensively. And a feature I like actually is when the agenda gets shared is going to my notes. And the meeting might be next week, but there's some things I want to add around that, and I use this feature quite a lot because I know I won't remember it in a week's time. So I go to the My Notes section, and these are personalised notes I can make against the agenda points, and it goes into my personal OneNote, which is and it's all formatted quite nicely as well, which I really like. So yeah, thanks for showing that, Brian.
From the administrator side, so the person who's clerking the meeting, you would most likely be working from this view to create any action items that need to be taken from this meeting and need to be recorded into the minutes, conduct the voting and record any decisions that have been made. So you can I'll show you how to administrate that. You also have the ability to create speaker lists as well, which is pretty cool. What that does is it creates so in Teams and in Zoom, you basically have a hand raise function that you can use to say that you want to speak at some point. But if you have a larger meeting with people that like to talk a lot, which these meetings tend to be, you can create an ordered list of speakers that you can call on. So if I publish a speaker list, for example, I have some functionality here, whether I want to allow for people to add remarks. So basically they can jump the queue to be next in line to speak if they need to piggyback on what somebody else is saying. The ability to request a timeout, so a pause in the proceedings for to make discussions or a bio break or something like that. Allow other people to administrate this as well. And if I post this will go into the meeting itself in the chat window. So here's I'm actually in this meeting live now, and people can go in if they want to speak on this topic. they can go in and raise their hand, request to speak. Since I'm administrating the meeting, I can say, okay, this person's done. I move to the next person on the list, so it will check me off, and then I can go and proceed to the next person who's in the speaking queue. Okay. Great. And then so in terms of voting, like I mentioned, so you can control that through decisions. So we have a decision in progress here, a vote in progress, which I've launched, but I also have another vote which I haven't. So the way that it works is you create a proposed decision that you'll be putting up to vote. You can either make it a yes/no, sort of a binary choice, or if it's a multiple choice sort of decision, some separate possible outcomes, you can launch that as well and start the votes. And this vote will take place also in Teams, but we also have a phone app so that you can do that in iOS or on Android. You can register votes manually. I'll get into that in a second. And allow, there's some functionality around whether you want that vote to be anonymous or whether it should be fully open, whether you should allow none of the above options, where you want that vote to take place. And then you can launch that, and that will also go into the meeting as well. So yeah, that'll go into the into the chat for the meeting. I'll show you that in a second. Some other things that you have access to here is the time tracker. So this is the view for the person administrating the meeting. It's simple. It's just a blue line going down the left. If you hover over it, it tells you how much time is left in a specific topic. So to sort of, if you need to sort of push people along. Obviously, that's not going to be the case in the ability in every instance, but it is something that you would have access to if you set time on items. I'll show the users have a separate view where they can see the time. I'll show you that in a second. And one last thing I wanted to show you here is actually the settings. So within the votes and in the voting functionality, you have a few possibilities. And right now we have sort of our generic language pack here. We do have a council language pack that we can add, that we can activate for you. So the statement, sort of the terms that we're using here are quite general to meetings, but we have one that's specific to councils that we would be able to activate. But you can see here, you're able to administrate who has voting rights. If you would like to sort of assess an affiliation with that person's role. So for example, I just list myself as North, but if you want to do political party or area that they're representing, you can set that affiliation here as well. And you'll see that in the voting results as that happens. So that gets carried over there too. Great. We also have the ability to do agenda numbering. So if there's a certain convention that you have for numbering agenda items, we can customize that, or we can work with you on that. But you can also do that yourself. Yeah, I'll move over and back into this then. Okay, so this is on the admin side. On the end user side, let me bring over the meeting window. So in the meeting chats, we have our speaker list here, but we also have this agenda button here with the decisions D. This allows the users, if they're viewing on Teams, to open up the agenda while the meeting is going on. So you have it directly in the side panel. You have your windows of other people talking going on in the main window here, but you get a nice, easy way to open up the agenda for that meeting. You can also launch files directly from here, which is quite cool. It really makes it a lot easier. You don't have to switch back and forth between windows. You don't need to have a second screen set up. You can do it all directly from the Teams window. And you're also able to vote directly in this window. So if the vote is active, I'm actually able to go in, cast my votes. I gave myself voting rights in this case. So I can approve this maintenance proposal, hit vote. If the vote is open and not anonymous, I can view the results of that as well as it's going, and there you can see my affiliation that we've assigned. If I think we have another vote here on agenda point number 5. Yep, I can cast a vote here. This was the multiple choice one. So I can say we'll renew the current policy, and I'll vote for that as well. So then as the administrator, once that vote has taken place, I see here, I can view the results on my side. I see that yes has won. I can then go in and finalize that as a passed resolution. So this will get carried over into the minutes of the meeting, and it keeps a record also in decisions of that finalized votes. For the multiple choice one, I can go in, I can leave the other ones as proposed decisions, but the one that was carried, I can go in and finalize. But one thing I did want to show you is if I open up the votes window here, if let's say in this case David wasn't able to attend this meeting, he's not in the meeting unfortunately, but I need to he's on the phone or he's live, but I need to record his vote in the system. I can go in, register the votes. Let's say he voted by phone and he voted to also renew the policy. I can record that here as well. And then that way I know that when I view the results, renew policy won, so I can go in and finalize that as well and mark that as the final decision. One thing that I promised to talk about was also the tasks in the relationship with Microsoft Planner. So let me go in and create an action item here. Let's take a step back. We're back in the meeting. We need somebody to get a quote, an additional quote for an item. I can assign that as a task to someone. So quote from XYZ company. Provide a description around that, give it a due date, and then pick who we want to assign that to. Or David, I'm laying everything on him today. If we haven't gone into much detail about Planner, in Planner, I'll show you in a second, you have the ability to create task buckets. So you can drop it in to sort of keep track of, the different tasks that are out there. So you can drop it into a specific bucket if you'd like. Otherwise, you can leave it in a task bucket for the meeting occurrence. But I'll go ahead and I'll add this to a finance task bucket. Save that. So David will receive a notification. He has a new task assigned to him. This integrates into Microsoft Planner, which I'll show you in a second, and it will also carry into the minutes as an action item whenever I generate those. Planner is a really useful tool, and for a couple of different reasons, both for personal tasks, but also at the team level. So you can see here you have like a personal to-do list. If you assign that to someone, it will go under their personal to-do list. So they also have that task there. But you also have a task list for the team that you're working in. And you can view this as a list. So these are all the tasks that are out there, all the due dates, who they've been assigned to. But you can also view it as a task board, which is a nice view. So I can go through and see, here's where these buckets are set up, the different task buckets that are out there. And then if we have an internal meeting later, I can follow up with David. How is it going with that ordering of the new PC? Okay, it's completed. You just check that off, and that's now a completed item on the task board. So a really great way to keep track of things. Even if you're not in here messing with the tasks that after you've created them, you still get a benefit though, because it does notify the people that they have new tasks assigned to them and sends them reminders when that task is getting to the due date, so they know to go back in and and make sure that that's completed. All right. Okay, so now I'll go into the minutes and I'll create those. You can create them in Word or OneNote. For councils, Word is going to be the preference. If you have any internal meetings that are a bit more informal, OneNote works really well though. It saves to a team notebook that everyone has access to and creates a nice little task table and decision table. So you have all of the notes as a quick reference from that meeting. But I'll go and create a Word minutes document here. So that'll launch Word on, I have too many instances of Word here, 2 screens, never know where it's going to open, but here we go. So it's really simple. So when you're ready to create the minutes, it will launch the side panel. You mark what you want to include in those minutes from the work that you've already done in decisions. If you want to incorporate, if you've taken any personal notes, you want to incorporate those in the public minutes, you can do that as well. I'm just going to leave it blank in this case and not bring those over. If people have accepted or declined the meeting, they'll automatically be marked either attendees or absent, but you can also manually do that and say Jonathan was absent from the meeting, or he's considered an apology. We can mark that. And then we have our minutes documents here as well. Quite simple format, but we can add your logo here with no problem. Some fonts and colors and things to keep it on brand is also definitely possible. But you have your decisions, the action item also recorded here. Like I said, we're using the sort of general meeting language pack right now, but we have a language pack specific to councils that we would use for you guys. But this is basically doing all of that work to create the minutes at the end of the meeting. And when you're ready to finalize, if you want to send it out for review, you can do that as well and see if anybody has any other input on those minutes before they're finalized. You create a PDF that'll lock this document as a PDF, save it to SharePoint with all of the other meeting information, and give you a chance to email a copy to anyone who needs one in their inbox. But if I open up that PDF, this is a nice document that you can then publish to the website. So you have the meeting minutes pretty much ready to go. Once that meeting is done, you might want to add a couple of notes or something, but you can basically have this ready to publish to the website almost immediately after that meeting is done.